So you should be a CEO if you love leading. If you hate leading, you need to figure out how to love it if you want to be CEO. That's just the reality.
So good.
You like to make big decisions, maybe those high risk decisions, and really setting that direction and getting everyone behind you to like follow you into that one direction.
Mhm.
Um, are you comfortable making like really quick strategic calls, even if they feel freaking risky? Like
Mhm.
if you don't have that gut, like, ugh, like you're not
Mhm.
making a risky enough decision. I feel like business is all about taking risks.
What's up, and welcome back to the Scale Your Sales podcast. I am your host and your soon to be podcast BFF, Jillian Murphy. If you are absolutely exhausted of hearing the same podcast that only leaves you feeling motivated and just a bunch of fluff, well, you have absolutely landed on the right podcast today. In this episode, we are going to talk about the most important skill you need to generate your business, and that is sales. We are going to dive into topics such as messaging, marketing, how to build lead generation organically, and we are going to talk about how to create consistent cash months inside of your business. And we are also going to talk about how to build a company that isn't just about making money, but is also bringing in actual wealth, while getting back to what I know is your most important thing: time freedom. Now, I am here for real talk, real advice, straightforward tip, and no BS. You can always walk away and implement everything that we talk about in our show and move it into your business immediately. But I have to tell you, I am not your typical business mentor. We are going to talk about things that nobody else is probably talking about on the internet. We are going to talk about what it takes to build a real company and not just about how to manifest your business or how you can make $1 million tomorrow. But if that's what you're looking for, this podcast is absolutely not for you. We are going to talk about the real skills to build a real business. Now, I have spent over 25 years in the corporate sales space, generating over $100 million in sales through multiple industries in the online and the brick and mortar space. I have been able to help over 500 entrepreneurs not only grow their sales, but scale their businesses. Several times per week, I'm going to bring you solo episodes, guest episodes, and even hot seat coaching so that you are able to scale your sales. Now, grab a pen and paper, your beverage of choice, and let's freaking go. What's up, babes? Welcome back to the podcast. It is Valentine's Day as we are recording this podcast. Maybe you're someone who loves Valentine's Day. Maybe you're someone who doesn't, but we are going to talk about all things in our business that we love today and maybe some things that we don't love today. But I definitely have someone on the podcast today that I love. I've gotten to know her very well over the last year. We are slowly building an incredible friendship. I'm excited to do life and business with her over the next year. Danielle, welcome to the show. Tell my audience who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Long overdue.
Yeah.
Like Jillian said, I'm Danielle Nunes. I'm a fractional CEO and a psychotherapist for women entrepreneurs. And I essentially help women really grow into their CEO role of their business so they can focus on the right priorities, the right team, and also their own leadership development. So ultimately, they can scale a profitable business they love and make good money.
I love that. So I always love a good backstory on the podcast, give my audience a kind of an opportunity to get to know like you and how you got here. So let's talk about how you went from being a psychotherapist to a CEO now.
Yes. So great question. So I ended up going the psychotherapist route. I originally was a business major, and I'm like, I am fascinated with psychology. Fast forward, I really wanted to work with leaders in general. Leadership has always been something I was interested in. And so I'm like, what if I work with leaders within the entrepreneur space,
Mhm.
um, and add a psychology twist to it? And so anyways, fast forward to that, as I was accruing my hours, I landed at a mental health program. I ended up being there for 14 years. I had no intention of climbing the corporate ladder. I loved what I did. Again, it was related to leadership, which doesn't surprise me. And it got to a point where I'm like, I'm really good at what I do. I scaled from one program, a mental health program, to three. I was leading large teams of over 100 people. And I'm like, why am I building someone else's dream when I essentially can build my own? So I decided to leave. And I found actually male. I tend to attract male business owners. I'm
Mhm.
very familiar with the male dominated industries. I'm sure you
Yeah.
can relate to this.
Yeah.
And they hired me to come in and fix their businesses. And while I loved what I was doing, there was a feeling inside of me that was like, this isn't hitting it for me. I had my daughter, and after raising boys, I'm like, I never want her to feel like she has to essentially dim her light, shy away from her truth, and really I would say, like, step into her power. And if she wants to lead, lead. And so I'm like, I want to work with women. This is going to be a challenge for me because I think you and I have talked about this before.
Yeah.
I don't gravitate towards, I don't
Yeah.
have a lot of women friends.
Yeah.
And
That's why I'm really glad that you're in the mastermind with me this year, because I'm like, I don't have a lot of like female friends in there. And I'm going to be like, Danielle's mine. Nobody take her.
I feel like you and I could totally talk about this like as a
Yeah.
separate episode because I love the women that I have in my life, but
Mhm.
I have just been too ambitious, too bold, too driven, too blunt, too this, too that. And I've have a good chunk of people that, if I didn't respond right away, we're no longer friends.
Yeah.
What's wrong? It's like, I'm just living my life. I have kids, I have this, I have that. And so I just have never felt super connected to other women. And, but I have made it my mission to, I think, just really not improve, but like step outside my comfort zone and really find those friendships. So I'm
Yeah, I think that's absolutely going to be another podcast topic, and you're actually
yeah,
giving me like a topic of something that I even want to like grab the mic and talk about, because I think that is absolutely so important. And I think it's important for one, this conversation that we're having today, but I also think it's important because as you are a business owner, whether you're a CEO, a coach, a gut health practitioner, a service-based provider, doesn't matter. You're going to need to know how to resonate with both men and women, right? And I
100%.
think that's going to be really, really, really important. So
Yeah,
I love that. I'll definitely bring you back on the show to jam out on that
let's do it.
conversation. So we'll definitely do it. I'm actually going to start recording a lot of my podcasts in person. So I'm like, maybe
Ooh,
I'll bring you out to Scottsdale and we'll do
okay,
like an in-person one. I think that'd
that
be like
sounds good.
that'd be a really, you're like, I'm already in. Don't even tell me
Yeah,
anything
I
else.
love Arizona. I think I told you I lived in Tucson, so I'm totally
Yeah.
down. I
All
miss
right.
it.
Well, come on out. I'm excited. So let's talk about being a CEO. I think
Yeah,
the first thing I want to talk about before we even get into like the topics of a CEO is like, in your mind and your definition, like what is a CEO? Because I think there's a lot of
yeah,
people, like we joked about this the other day on our call, like wearing a cute hat or a sweatshirt, and they're like, I'm a CEO, but like, are you?
yeah. So that's a very good question. I feel like if you think of a CEO, they're primarily responsible for the vision that they have for the business, like 10-year vision, I'm talking. They're responsible for the people, and I'm
Mhm.
talking about the team, right? That they're so focused on their people, their culture. I always say culture does not sell at all. Like if I was going to go out and talk about culture, people would be like, what the fuck is that? Oh, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
My dad actually won't listen to the podcast because I swear so much.
Okay, start. Yeah, so culture, also resources. And I'm talking about money. I'm talking about like where's their money going? And relationships, like stakeholder relationships. And I'm thinking not only are your clients your stakeholder like relationships, I'm thinking stakeholders if you have investors, if you have a board, you're responsible for essentially keeping them happy. And I would actually love to kind of talk a little bit about how to know if you should be CEO or hire one. Do you want to go into
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a really great conversation because you and I just had this conversation the other day. Is like,
yeah.
I know even in my world, like, I'm not a great CEO. I
Mhm.
know where my strengths are and I know where my strengths aren't. So, yeah, I would absolutely love to dive into this topic.
Yeah, so I would say the CEO role is not for everyone. And I want to normalize that. I think that that's okay. I think as we start our businesses, there's a lot of people that like you were saying, like they wear a CEO hat, right? I feel like there's so much content around that, but like they feel like they have to be the CEO of their business. And I think at the end of the day, some founders love leading and making big decisions, while others prefer to really stay in their zone of genius, whether that's coaching, selling for you, creating, right? I feel like you like to create content and really innovating. And so at some point though, your business needs an identified leader, identified CEO. And if you don't want to be that person, then you need to start identifying someone who can really step into that role.
Mhm.
So I would say here's how to figure that out. So you should be a CEO if you love leading. If you hate leading, you need to figure
Mhm.
out how to love it if you want to be CEO. That's just the reality.
So
If
good.
you you like to make big decisions, maybe those high risk decisions, and really setting that direction and getting everyone behind you to like follow you into that one direction.
Mhm.
Um, are you comfortable making like really quick strategic calls, even if they feel freaking risky? Like
Mhm.
if you don't have that gut, like, ugh, like you're not
Mhm.
making a risky enough decision. I feel like business is all about taking risks. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
I think that's really great.
also, you need to know how to delegate and trust your team.
Mhm.
And you need to focus on, like I said, vision, people, culture, growth, instead of really those daily activities in your business. If you're going to hire, or if you want to hire an actual CEO or a fractional CEO, that is if you struggle to make those high stake decisions quickly. You don't enjoy leading people or holding people accountable. In fact, you might shy away from, like, maybe there's a hard conversation, maybe shy away from it, avoid numbers and strategy and operational planning. This might not hit for you, but like you still feel like you're the only one who can do it right.
Yeah.
You'll love your craft, but
Mhm.
you don't care about for the business side. Like you're just like, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing.
Yeah.
Someone else can take care of this other shit. And also your business has really outgrown your ability to lead it.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, I think that those are the things that kind of come to mind for me when, you need to start making a decision like, is this for me or do I need to hire someone?
Yeah, so I actually love this conversation. I think, we could even have like an open and honest conversation on this podcast. People on my show know I'll like pull back the curtains. I feel like every one of those is actually not me
Mhm,
until you said, I just want to stay in my zone of genius, right? Like I can
mhm,
make quick, impulsive decisions all day long. Like I actually think the reason I've been successful in my business is because I do make rapid decisions and I
mhm,
make them quick based on the vision of the business, right? So right now, for an example, we're running 300 webinars for
mhm,
the rest of the year. And someone pitched me yesterday to build up my entire webinar funnel, and it was a pretty penny. But
mhm,
I was like, nope, done, done, because I don't want to wait for
mhm.
someone else to learn this, someone else to do it. So
Right.
I feel like in my case, I can make those quick decisions, not frivolously, but like I know the vision of where I want the company to go. I
Yeah,
also don't have a hard time managing people. I just don't want
don't
to
want
do
to.
that. I don't want to do that work,
Mhm.
right? I feel like that's it. So I think maybe it's like these people are good CEOs and they have good and bad aspects of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think you could be good at all of these things, but do you love it?
Yeah.
Do you want to do it? Because
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be a forever game, but this is a long game, right? And
Yeah.
so you gotta love it. And I think that if you don't love it, your business is going to, your team is gonna know, they're gonna
Hmm.
feel it. So why not get someone in there that's like, fuck yes, like let's
Yeah.
go, you know?
Yeah. One of the things I know you love to talk about is handling your emotions as a CEO. And if you're in this podcast, I'm sure you've spiraled. I'm sure you've yelled. I'm sure you've gotten frustrated. This was literally me on Tuesday. My team's going to probably edit this podcast and be like, this was her on Tuesday. How do you find that people need to be better at managing their emotions as a CEO?
Oh gosh. I think people need to be better at managing their emotions, but I also feel like people need to start bringing emotions back into business. So I think
Hmm.
that there's two things. I think that there's this common belief that emotions don't belong in business, but let's be honest. I actually feel like women entrepreneurs are the best at this. I feel like we're very good at leveraging emotional intelligence, and
Hmm.
I think it's one of our biggest strengths.
Hmm.
And I think we need to say goodbye to like that bro culture.
Yeah.
I think that
100%.
there is this narrative in the business world, especially online, that I see. It's like this bro culture leadership that really says that emotions are weak, that they make you weak, and that you should be really tough to be
Hmm.
taken seriously.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that the traditional, I don't say business coaches, but just leadership in general, I think that they do push the idea that leadership should be purely logic, right? And strictly numbers driven. And you need to be emotionally detached. But it's so outdated, it's ineffective, and quite frankly, I believe it's harmful to your business. So I think ignoring your emotions doesn't make you stronger. It makes you blind
Yeah.
to the issues, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think as we suppress our emotions, because I think it's good that have these emotional moments still. Like I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know that I would get rid of that.
No, I think that it actually helps my business, to be honest, because I think like
Correct.
I'm gonna use like this week for an example. something was happening in the business and I was like spiraling, if I suppress it and
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about it, then it's
Mm-hmm.
like nothing gets done. Now, could
Mm-hmm.
I have maybe been a little sweeter with my tongue?
Sure.
Maybe. Could I have maybe breathed a little bit before too? But I also think this, and I'd love your take on this too. My team knows exactly how I operate. So
Mm-hmm.
my team knows that like I tend to like lose my shit and
Mm-hmm.
like yell and get mad and send voice memos, and then like the next day I'm fine. Not
Yeah.
like like an abusive relationship. I'm like, man, this does not sound good. But like they know that like she spirals, and then like the next day she's like onto something else.
Yes, and I would say if your team knows you well and knows that
Yeah.
that's how you react and they know not to respond to those your
Yeah.
emotions, then I would say like if that works for your team, do it. I also suggest
Neither one of them responded to me on Tuesday.
so they know.
They know.
Other people would be kind of fearful. So I almost would think like that's like one of your things that if you hire someone, it's like on your list of like, okay, I need to talk to this person about this because this is
Yeah.
just how I work.
Yep.
Another thing that I recommend other people do is like process in your notes app, pull something up, write, journal something, get your frustrations out because when you go to
Mhm.
actually have the conversation, it feels less emotionally charged for you.
Yeah.
But
I think
there
that's good for everything.
totally.
Whether it's a conversation with a friend, a mentor, a bestie, a relationship, like anyone, it's like, is this really going to matter? But let me also get it out
Mhm.
first.
Yep. hmm So on that note, as a therapist, I teach my clients what's called a concept. It's called wise mind. It's from dialectical behavior therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
Mm-mm.
essentially it's a decision-making framework that helps you balance logic with emotions. So
Ooh.
there's three states of mind. I hope you're okay. I go into this.
Oh my God, I'm totally here for this. I'm like
Okay.
literally taking notes right now. I'm like, is
Okay.
she
There's
speaking to
three
me right
states
now?
of mind. There's your emotional mind, there's your logical mind, and then there's your wise mind. So the emotional mind is when you're reacting to things purely based on your feelings and your emotions. Like, for example, firing someone because you're frustrated, or you are making a big investment because you're excited about it
Hmm.
without fully thinking it through.
Yep.
Okay, that's your emotional mind. Your logical mind is essentially you're making decisions based only on logic, numbers. You're completely ignoring your intuition. And then your wise mind is really that sweet spot where logic and emotions work together to really create this balanced decision, right? That you're thinking about both things. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And I'm even thinking about like maybe like conversations that I'm like wanting to have right now. Like even
Mm-hmm.
just like right now, like you're talking about this, it's like I'm like newly dating someone. It's like how many times do I like go to send a text because I'm like emotionally charged? But it's
Mm-hmm.
like, could I just maybe I'm not using my wise brain, or I'm not
Mm-hmm.
using this other part of my thing, or I'm not also not like texting it out first or journaling it out or going
Right.
in my notes app. So I'm like emotionally like charged to do it. Yeah, I think this is like a great piece of advice.
Mm-hmm. And I think this one's going to resonate with you. I actually feel like your emotional intelligence makes you better at sales.
Hmm.
I feel like you're going to be like, yep. I think one of the
Okay.
you're like, okay. Well, because I know that you teach this. And so
Yeah.
one of the biggest advantages I feel like of emotional intelligence is business or in business is sales. So people who are great at sales understand emotions,
Yeah.
right? Both their own and also their customer or the
Yeah.
clients. So they know how to read their buying signal. You know all of this. Like
Yeah.
they adjust their approach based on customer emotions. They identify those objections before they really verbalize, like by reading their body. I'm sure you're in the DMs, right? But like
Yeah.
maybe you're on a call with somebody, right? You would
Yeah.
read their body language. Um, but yeah, the best CEOs I feel like are like the best salespeople, honestly.
Mhm.
They understand human behavior. That is truly what I feel like leadership is about. And I think it is so important that we don't like ignore the emotions, the things that we're feeling and thinking,
Yeah.
because I think it is extremely powerful to bring them both together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As a fractional
yeah.
CEO, when does someone hire you, or you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, okay, maybe I'm not a good CEO, or like I need help, but like, I always say, like, what are like the symptoms that
Mhm.
somebody is going through that they're like, okay, I think I need help?
If you're struggling, so sometimes people get operations like a COO and a CEO confused. They kind
Yeah.
of jumble them together. I have experience in both, and so my approach brings both. But if your job as a CEO is to, I would say, is really to lead your leaders. So if you have managers on your team, your job is to keep them happy. Your job is to be leading them so that they don't leave.
Mm.
Your job is to be, I know this is gonna hit for you, Jill. Your job is to be making your team members happy and getting them the things that they need. So if your team is feeling like, gosh, I need support, right? Then your job as CEO is to like really step in and be like, okay, we need to get this person the support that they need.
Mm-hmm.
What's challenging is that, as I call it, a partnership at the end of the day, a fractional CEO is a partner to the owner, right? So let's just say I was your fractional CEO, Jill.
Yep.
I'm your partner. But fractional CEOs make a lot of high level decisions. And so, especially when it comes to hiring. So, if you hired me and I'm like, hey, Jill, I want to hire so and so because we really need help in this area. And you're like, no, at some point. So, to answer your question, if you're ready to hire a fractional CEO, you have to be willing to be flexible in your decision making when it comes to finances. Like at the end of the day, you can still control that, right?
Yep.
But the person that is kind of in that seat needs to have the ability to make those decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense for sure. So when you come into someone's business, what are some of the main things that you work on?
First and foremost, actual like quarterly planning,
Yeah.
or even an annual operating plan.
I will
Most,
say most entrepreneurs have zero plan.
yeah, yeah.
Zero.
They don't. So that's the first and foremost. So most people, it's not like they hire me in January, right? Like the reality is most people find me like mid-year. And
Yeah.
so we'll start then. We'll look backwards. Okay, what was your finances for the last 6 months? We'll look at your sales, all that stuff, and create an annual operating plan from that date. And
Mm-hmm.
then so it'll end up probably being a quarterly one, but we'll just keep reviewing that. But I would say that that's the biggest area, is the actual planning. No one is doing that.
Yeah.
Setting up business rhythms and communication. So your team, they want to be able to communicate with you. They want to know what's going on in the business. And so I start working on actual implementing business rhythms. So what I mean by rhythms is meeting frequencies. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying go have meetings just to have fucking meetings. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying go have meetings to make sure that you're communicating what's going on in your business so that your team knows where the heck what we're doing, how to get there. So I would say annual operating plan, implementing business rhythms, and then I like to go to look at, okay, where we have some gaps. For example, where are we losing money?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is failed payments.
Mm-hmm.
So if, we'll try to clean that system up. Why are we have failed payments? Let's put an actual automation in place. Um, oftentimes CEOs are the ones that are addressing the failed payments.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is most people don't realize that is ruining your relationship that you have with your customer.
Yeah, I always say the coach and the collector should never be the same person.
100%.
I talk to nobody about finances. If I get on a call with someone and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, my credit card bounced," I'm like, "Message
Mhm.
Paul.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about this. I don't want to hear about it." And
Yep.
also, when we can't collect it, I am not reaching out.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I think at some point then you looked and say like, okay, how much is this? How much do we need to collect? And are we just gonna like move on? Like how much time do we want to spend, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then so it's that I like to figure out like where are we losing money? And usually it's failed payments. And then the other thing is just making sure that there is actual, I know you don't love systems and operations. Not a lot of people do. Systems, most people are scared of them. But I like to come in and just make it very simple. Like, let's try to automate some stuff and let's get some systems in place so that when we hire, I'm all about preventable. Whenever we hire, I don't want to be scrambling. I want to be like, we're hiring, let's onboard this person. They get the same onboarding as, Joe Schmo that we're going to hire, in 6 months. Everything is streamlined, done. That way, Jill, if you decide to go on a vacation or whatever, if say I'm your fractional CEO, I decide to go on vacation,
Mhm.
everything is already in place and no one is wondering what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So I would say those are the top things that like right away I'm going in and doing.
Yeah, so good. You guys are all probably like, I need her right away. And you're like, yes, you do. Where can people find you? What do you have going on right now?
Yeah, so people can find me. My primary platform is Instagram, so daniellenunes.ceo. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and working on doing consistent webinar. You challenged me to do one webinar a year or a day, which I love that you're doing that. So trying to solidify that, and then I have a new program that's coming out to essentially help women entrepreneurs, founders grow into their CEO role. Again, I'm all about being preventable. So helping them put the infrastructure in place. So then when they decide to really step into that role fully, they have everything that they need, essentially.
I love that. And you actually came to my webinar on Wednesday, and it was a terrible webinar. It was actually, you guys, this is a great example.
So you think that. I didn't think that.
Oh,
But
well,
okay.
I'm glad you didn't realize that I was actually using the wrong slide deck.
Oh, no.
Like everything was so wrong. So you guys, this is just such a great example too, was like, just keep going.
Yeah.
Like, and I have 298 more of them to polish it up. But yeah, you actually came on that one, and I was like, oh my God, Danielle's on this one. This is like a horrid one, but
I didn't even know.
I'm glad you didn't know.
I saw Katie on there, and she was like, "We'll get better." I'm like, "Actually, this is great." I didn't even know anything. So
yeah, well, good to know. Danielle, thank you so much for being here today, my friend. I'm excited for our second podcast recording in person, and I'm excited to see you next month in California.
Yes, so good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for tuning into the Scale Your Sales podcast. If today's episode has you fired up, would you do me a huge favor and leave a review over on Apple or Spotify podcast? Or, of course, you can always take a screenshot and share it on your social media. That is the way we grow this show, and so that other people can absolutely learn how to grow their sales as well. I am on a mission to change the mindset of sales. I want people to freaking love sales, because the reality is sales is the foundation of everything you do. It's how your business generates revenue consistently. So remember, keep showing up and being unapologetic about selling, because once you fall in love with selling, the sky is absolutely the limit. Until next time, happy selling, and my DMs are always open. I can't wait to get to know you better.